Welcome to Lean White Belt Module 2. This is the second in the series of 4 modules. Among the topics in this module will be an overview of the Kaizen, including a charter, team roles, the construction of a problem statement, key performance indicators, making sure that you have reviews after the event, and the core technique of process mapping. The other Lean tools will be discussed prior to a summary and a brief quiz. As you learned in Module 1, Lean techniques were developed in Japan by the Toyota Corporation. The principles are now broadly applied across the globe, using only a few of the Japanese terms. While Lean practitioners in New Hampshire primarily use English translations of the terms, Kaizen is the exception. The Japanese word Kaizen is from Kai to change and Zen to make better. This word perfectly captures the core concept of Lean, continuous improvement. As we develop an understanding of Lean thinking, we see the value of steady continuous improvement. The program by the state of Washington reminds us to improve 30% now instead of 100% later, or never. By the time we've perfectly planned a 100% improvement, we've lost valuable time and the business conditions will have changed. A Kaizen event is a facilitated small-scope improvement activity that engages the creativity of employees to reduce waste in a work process. Kaizen events typically last 3 to 5 days. This slide shows the steps in a Kaizen event. We'll be explaining each of these during this part of the program. Kaizen events use the process mapping technique to make the process visible. The map allows the project team to develop a common understanding of the way the work is currently done in order to design an improved process. This photo is of a project conducted in 2011 by the Appeals Unit of New Hampshire Employment Security. If you were laid off at the height of the Great Recession and turned down for unemployment compensation, you had to wait longer than in any other state to have your appeal adjudicated. This Lean project allowed the appeals unit to go from processing only 6% in 30 days to 86%. We're going to talk more later on about their achievement and how it was recognized. This is a statement of scope, objectives, and resources authorized for the project. If you have not already printed the charter template that's posted in the resource section of the Moodle Classroom, please pause the program and do so now. Every project needs a sponsor. A core component of the charter is to articulate who the sponsor is. The sponsor is the manager who has the authority to approve a redesign of the process workflow. Each project should have a team leader, also known as a value stream manager. This is typically a section chief who works with the sponsor and the facilitator on logistics, and who will take primary responsibility for managing the implementation of the approved changes after the event. It's important to know, though, that during the event, the team leader has no greater authority than any other team member. The equality of all team members is one of the fundamental ground rules in any Lean event. The team members are employees who work in all sections of the process. Their knowledge is essential to the task of documenting the current process and to improve the process while avoiding unintended negative consequences. If possible, Lean projects should include customers of the process. Their perspective is extremely valuable. Lean projects also benefit from recruiting a couple of employees from other sections of the organization who can join the team as fresh eyes. They can ask why the work is done this way, the way it's always been done, and they'll help the team see new possibilities. The team might also need to call in subject matter experts, known as caucus members, those who would come in for a portion of the project to answer specific questions. The Lean facilitator is one of the very important roles. Lean facilitator has 2 responsibilities: to be knowledgeable in Lean and guide people through the process while making sure that the team is cohesive and works well together. Activity 1, drafting a charter. Recall the work processes you identified during Module 1 and select one to work with during this module. Filling out the template, let's start with the process name as the event name. Next, in the section for team members, think about the people you'd need to have on this team in order to understand how the process is done now, and then begin to figure out how it could be changed, how it could be improved. Those are the people you want on your core team. Identify the end user customer of the process, and finally, who would be your sponsor? Who has the authority to authorize changes to this process? The problem statement. The problem statement is in the form of a question that addresses the problem without identifying a solution. So the example here is citizens complain about the permitting process. Your problem statement is, how can the permitting process be simplified so that all qualified applicants receive a permit within 14 days? The problem statement for the process that you are chartering. As you draft that problem statement, don't forget to make it in the form of a question starting with how. Be as specific as possible without suggesting a solution. That's for the team to do. Write it in the correct field on the charter template. We'll pause for a moment here as you review your charter as you've created it thus far. Next, key performance indicators. Let's be as specific as possible. Can you reduce the number of applications returned for correction? Do you want to decrease the amount of time it takes? What's it about? Is it time? Is it accuracy? Is it cost? What kind of key performance indicators would give you the confidence that your event is successful? In process mapping, the team has 3 core tasks. First, to map the current state of the process exactly as it is conducted. Secondly, to assess the time spent on each step within the process and the value of that step to the customer. Finally, to design a new workflow as well as determining the tasks that will be required to change the process and the timeline for completing those changes. The team can choose to recommend an interim state or a pilot program to test the new process prior to full implementation. Once the sponsor has approved the process redesign, the team leader and team members need to manage the implementation and celebrate each milestone. Be sure to maintain metrics to compare the new and old process flow and communicate the gains. The project team should schedule a series of check-ins with the sponsor to confirm that deliverables are on target and report the progress to the agency's Lean coordinator. Public recognition is a reward for a project well done. It's also an important way to build confidence in the use of Lean techniques. Remember the employment security project that we discussed earlier? Here's a picture of their team being recognized at the 2012 Lean Summit by then Governor Lynch. They had gone from dead last in the country up to 16th. It was a tremendous achievement in a short amount of time. As we discussed in Module 1, Lean is much more than waste reduction by process mapping. At the core of the Lean problem-solving methodology is the concept of Plan, Do, Check, Act, or PDCA. It is a cycle of continuous improvement. Is not to jump to conclusions. Part of every planning process is defining the problem. It is too often assumed that every process can be improved by adding technology. Actually, an inefficient process can be made worse by adding technology. It's also extremely expensive and time-consuming to get an IT vendor to try to mimic an old process flow. Lesson number 1, lean your processes first. Now we move to a brief overview of other Lean tools. While Kaizen events use process mapping as a core lean tool, this white belt program introduces you to several more, all in support of the purpose of continuous improvement. The 5S is a method for maintaining a clean and orderly workplace based on 5 steps. These steps are English translations of 5 Japanese words that also begin with S. Sort, straighten or set in order, shine, standardize, sustain. This is not an annual spring cleaning. As with all lean tools, it needs to be continuous. The graphic shows sustainment of standards as being central to the 5S cycle. Some lean practitioners have added a 6th S. The 6th S stands for safety. The 5 Whys is a problem-solving technique that seeks to identify root cause. Each time why is asked, the problem is more clearly defined. Even if you currently lack the power to address the root cause, at least you won't be working on the wrong problem. It doesn't need to be asked exactly 5 times, but the format provides a structured approach to defining problems. Here's an example of the importance of understanding the real source of the problem. Someone notices a puddle on the floor. Taking the problem at the surface, one might just wipe up the puddle. Lean thinkers ask why there is a puddle. Answer: the overhead pipe is leaking. Why? There's too much water pressure in the pipe. Why? Control valves have not been tested. Why? Control valves are not on the maintenance schedule. So here we see, without addressing the root cause, the puddle would reappear. Try this technique using the 5 Whys worksheet you printed out for the class. Select a problem and start asking why. See how far you can get. Do you have enough information to get to the root cause? There's a sample problem on this slide. Our agency requires multiple layers of approval. You can select an activity for which there are multiple levels of approval required. For example, out-of-state travel. Why does that occur? And if you dig down deeply enough, you will go beyond the symptom, beyond the excuse, beyond the blame, and begin to get to the causes. Again, you may not know on your own what those deeper causes are, but the structure begins to point you in the direction of what is actually at the root of this behavior. Poka-yoke is the Japanese term for mistake proofing. You'll see a couple of examples on the slide here. As Dr. Deming said, cease dependence on inspection to achieve quality. We improve quality and reduce the waste of defects and the need for rework if we design features that reduce the likelihood of error. The A3 template is a great lean problem-solving tool, all on one page. The 7 fields walk you through the stages of plan, do, check, act. As with all lean tools, continuous improvement is essential. The final field asks you to identify how the changes will be confirmed and the improvements will be sustained. You can use this as part of a Kaizen event or as an independent problem-solving tool. Here's a lean cartoon. Consider the importance of stopping to change the square wheels, even when you don't have time. Thanks for your hard work on Module 2. Before we wrap up, here's a summary of what we talked about. We discussed Kaizens. Next, we discussed the 6 steps of the Kaizen event and the specific team roles. Then we went over the Kaizen problem statements, measuring success by using key performance indicators, and we described the importance of reviewing progress after a Kaizen event at 30, 60, and 90 days out. We also introduced some of the important lean tools such as 5S, 5 Whys, and Poka-yoke.
Okay, it's time for a quick quiz to test your knowledge on what we just went over. Which of the following is a Kaizen event step? A, identification of a process and sponsor. B, creation of a charter and assigned team. C, mapping of the current state of the process. D, measuring and evaluating. E, mapping the future state. F, preparing the implementation plan and presenting to sponsor. Or G, all of the above. That is correct. The answer is G, all of the above. Question 2. Fill in the blank. A blank is a statement of the scope, objectives, and resources authorized for the project. That is correct. A charter is a statement of the scope, objectives, and resources authorized for the project. Which of the following is one of the 6S tools? A, sort. B, set, in order and store. C, shake. D, standardize. E, sustain. F, shine. G, everything but shake. That is correct. The answer is G. Shake is not one of the 6S tools. Question 4. True or false? Key performance indicators are included in the charter and are measurable goals for a lean project. The answer is true. Key performance indicators, or KPIs, could include measures such as the quantity or quality of work. In the charter, one could indicate that a successful project would be determined by using KPIs. An example would be reducing the backlog of applications from 6 months down to 3 months. Question 5. Who is the manager of a Kaizen event project that has the authority to approve a redesign of the process workflow? That is correct. The answer is sponsor. The sponsor makes the final determination of who is on the Kaizen team. The Kaizen event needs the sponsor's approval for a successful project and implementation. You completed Module 2. Great job! Please continue on to Module 3.